You are listening to a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast that tells the stories of craft beer in Minnesota and beyond. So kick back, relax, and grab a cold one. The show starts now. Hello, my name is Dan Bobian, and I write, produce, and host a One Pint Stand. I'm ecstatic that you're listening. This episode is proudly sponsored by Northbound Smokehouse and Brew Pub. This friendly neighborhood brew pub has been featured on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives twice. Equipped with 2 smokers in their kitchen, a rotating menu of beer made on site, a full bar, and a killer patio. Whether you need food, beer, a cocktail, or good times, there's a reason to stop in at Northbound, located in South Minneapolis, just a block and a half from the 38th Light Rail station. On this episode of A One Pint Stand, I went down to South by SouthEast in Pine Island, Minnesota, to interview their co-owner and craft beer legend, Ann Fahy-Gust. In addition to being a master brewer, Ann has spent decades in the industry working at some of the most prolific breweries in the world. I was excited to sit down and hear about her career, as well as visit the chalet-like brewery right down Highway 52. So let's head out to the South by SouthEast tap room for my interview with Ann Fahy-Gust. Welcome to another on-location episode of A One Pint Stand. I'm your host, Dan Bobian. Today I am down here in Pine Island, Minnesota at South by SouthEast Brewing. My guest today is Ann Fahy-Gust. Ann, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy summer schedule to talk beer with me.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dan.
I have to say that ever since the live show that we did at Spiral Brewery for their anniversary, I've been just anxious and really excited to hear more stories from you. You're a walking encyclopedia of beer knowledge, and I think it says a lot about a person when I've talked to friends in the industry, particularly members of Team Nevertheless, the amazing things that they say about you. I'm very excited and very I've been looking forward to this. So let's start off our discussion with a few intro questions. So will you say your title or role or roles at South by SouthEast, your favorite summertime beer, and a beer city that you've been to that you would happily go back to if somebody was like, here's a plane ticket, here you go.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Title. I am a co-owner here. I have a business partner. She does all of our sales and marketing, so we're fully women-owned. I also have the role of master brewer. I have a head brewer that, does a lot of the brewing. I get to brew still from time to time. But at 70, it's a little bit hard to lift all those bags of grain all the time. And then I do, the taproom management sort of thing and stuff like that. That's the thing about small brewery. You just wear a lot of hats.
Right. Yeah.
As far as my favorite beer to drink in the summer, I really like our crisp Pilsner.
Yeah, we're drinking it right now.
And, right now I'm having a Trailhead Amber because I really like that one too.
Yeah.
They're both nice, light, easy drinking beers.
Mm-hmm.
And then a beer city that I would go back to if I was handed a ticket. So I grew up in Denver. So Denver has a really good beer culture.
Yeah.
And so it would probably be Denver.
Of course. Yeah. I've been to Denver 4 times, and every time I'm there, the time goes by so fast. And I feel like going in, I had a great plan of getting to all the places, and it's really hard because
so many.
There are so many places, and in a way, when you go there again, you want to try the new stuff because there's always new breweries and things opening up there. But there's also the favorites, and that favorite list every time you go gets longer and longer and longer. So
because you try more places.
Yes, and once you get out, go up to Boulder, go up to Fort Collins. It's just it's just beer heaven. So
Yeah.
that's a good answer. That's oftentimes when people ask, where do you want to go for beer? I'm like, sometimes I love going to new places, but Denver always feels like a new, really great experience for craft beer. So that's probably one I would choose too. Now,
I mean, just as an aside,
yeah,
back in the day when I lived in Colorado, there were only 2 craft breweries.
that
in
is
Denver.
insane to me. Aren't there, at this point, there's over 400 in the state?
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me that number, I think, is still ticking up. Obviously, it's slowed, but there's something about it out there. It's the culture. I'm assuming the access to the water. Everybody out there says the water is really good, you know.
And I think it's really good for tourism as well, because you not only have summer sports that you can do, you've got, all the ski areas, massive number of things to do really all year round. So it's not like some of the places in Minnesota here where, you have a great summer season because everybody's up fishing.
Right.
And then you have to wait until the lake freezes to get your, lake fishermen on the ice. But if it never freezes hard enough, then you don't get that.
Yeah.
So,
what are some of your favorite Colorado breweries that you always make a point to stop by?
Oh, that's really hard. I do like Breckenridge.
Okay.
I mean, I think they do pretty, it's very standard, very safe.
Yep.
There was a little one in Silverton.
Okay.
Kind of at the end of where that railway goes up the hill into the copper mine thing. And that one was pretty good too. It's very small.
Okay.
I don't know. And I do like to go on the Anheuser-Busch and the Coors because it brings back memories. I mean,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. So before we kind of talk about your career, you're one of the people who has experienced working in a large macro brewery and now a small craft brewery.
Yep.
For the longest time, there was a lot of kind of ill will for a lot of people. They'd refer to AB InBev as like, the evil empire of beer. And, say what you want about those larger macro breweries. When you go, I've done the St. Louis AB, the Budweiser tour, and the fact that they can make that beer taste the same all over the world is really crazy to me, especially after now going and visiting a lot more breweries of all sorts of different sizes, where like, you'll go to a brewery and sometimes from batch to batch, beer doesn't taste the same.
Exactly.
And I don't think people realize how difficult that is.
It is very difficult, and it's even more difficult where you're moving state to state.
Yeah.
So Anheuser-Busch in St. Louis has to create the same water profile as Anheuser-Busch in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes quite a bit of science. I mean, there's a lot of science that goes into brewing, particularly if you want to make your batches taste the same all the time.
Yeah.
One of the advantages that really large breweries have, though, is they're able to blend batches. So if there are little tiny variations, you can blend batches. So they'll, be running, say, a 500 barrel batch of beer through the brew house, and that will go in with maybe 3 or 4 other batches to fill up a fermenter.
Yeah.
Which will then go with 4 fermenters to an aging tank and so on. So you're getting the advantage of being able to scale that and really mute any of the differences that are coming out batch to batch.
Sure. I mean, that is fascinating. I just remember walking in at Anheuser-Busch and in their lagering tanks, and they're like, "Well, look underneath the tank and look up," because it just looks like the bottom of a tank.
Yeah.
And then you go and you peek, and it's like tank after, like, they go up for what looked like forever. So it's just like the size and scope of that is really interesting. So let's start. I want you to tell our listeners, how did your career in beer start?
So I graduated with a degree in biochemistry, and I love biochemistry. I'm a weird person that can actually see the molecules come together. And so that's really all I wanted to do was something in biochemistry. So I put in, applications to a variety of places, the EPA, the FDA, and since I lived in Colorado, Coors was on the list as well. And I got job offers to all of them, and Coors paid more money.
There you go.
And I was 25 years old, so
Sure.
you go with the money,
Yeah.
really. And then I discovered I just really loved the process. And even though I was started as a laboratory technician, working rotating shifts, and basically, my job was to go all over the place and take samples. Well, you learn what's going on inside those tanks or inside those lines or inside those filtration vessels and things like that. And you gain an appreciation for the process itself. And of course, with Coors, where I started, it was a huge brewery. So it would take you an hour and a half to go collect all your samples on your first run. And then you process those, and then you go back out to a different area and get more. So you got to see everything.
And when you say collecting samples, are you looking for similar? You're not just looking at like, is the ABV the same? Are you looking for, off flavors, or like measuring like the pH of the water? What were you analyzing?
So a lot of it was biological. Coors was not pasteurized, and so it was really important to have no biological growth in anything after the boil. So we looked at, a lot of biological data. pH was also a big thing. The amount of oxygenation in the oxygenated water, because if you're using that as push water, you want to have as low amount of oxygenation in that water.
Okay.
So we would run that. We would run oxygen levels on the beer in process. We would check yeast viability and things like that.
Okay. I'm assuming Coors had their own proprietary yeasts at that time. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So what was it? What about that process fascinated you, as a 25-year-old, just kind of getting into your career? What was it? Can you pinpoint to one specific thing where like, wow, this is fascinating. I never knew this happened. And how did that like act as a springboard?
I think because Coors also had their own malt houses, so I got to see how the malt grew, how the malt then got dried, how that malt then went in to mix with, other grains to make this liquid sugar that then, if it's balanced properly, is going to make really great food for the yeast and create a really good beer. So I think it was just the scope of all the things that had to go right to make the beer good. So, I think that was what was so fascinating. Yeah. And later in my career, I moved from the laboratory side to the process control side.
Okay.
So now you're looking at trending things and trying to figure out, why is this all of a sudden, why is the beer getting slightly darker? Why is this happening? And you would trace things back, sometimes all the way back to the barley in the field.
Sure.
So all of those little minute changes created, opportunity to kind of learn what else is going on.
Yeah. I think for people who have that scientific brain, a lot of the draw of any type of science is it's like putting together a puzzle.
Yeah.
So it just kind of trying to find those, commonalities of, wait, here's a difference. Where did this start? And kind of tracing back is very, very interesting. So you transitioned into kind of like what would you call that? Quality control?
So the way Coors had it set out, everything kind of fell in the quality control area.
Okay.
For laboratory, for process control, for quality assurance, which is different to quality control because it's more about making sure you're following processes,
Okay.
not actually analyzing the process.
Okay.
Then all of our tasting fell under that as well. And they had a huge tasting program. Before there were Cicerones, there was Coors tasting panel.
Okay. So what year are we talking here?
This would be, I would have probably started, probably 76, 77.
Okay. And at that
I've
time,
been at it a long time.
Yeah, right. At that time, craft beer didn't really exist.
No, actually, Coors was considered a craft beer.
Okay.
Because it was only regionally sold. So when I started at Coors, it did not cross over to, Minnesota. They made the movie Smokey and the Bandit because, he put all the Coors in his trunk and then took off across state lines.
There's a lot. I think anybody of a certain age probably has heard a story of somebody either making the pilgrimage to get Coors or, somebody brought back Coors and it was like this amazing thing.
Yeah.
At that point, their distribution footprint was a lot smaller.
Correct.
Still just the main brewery. It's in Golden, right?
It's in Golden.
Okay. Yeah. Which is just that's not that far away from Denver.
No.
At what point, so you when you were there, how many barrels were they producing? I have to imagine it was a pretty large amount still.
I think it was probably, I want to say they were probably 15 to 20 million.
Okay.
And of course, they expanded across the nation, added more brew lines and everything like that, and became actually the largest single site brewery in the world.
Yeah.
And since then, Sapporo and Asahi, a lot of the Japanese breweries have exceeded that. They're much bigger.
Yeah.
And then Coors kind of also then made some satellite breweries as well.
Yep.
So Anheuser-Busch never got one site really, really big because they went a different model and did multiple sites closer so that their distribution costs were minimized.
Yeah.
Two different models.
Do you have an opinion on which model was better?
Not really. I mean, when you set up to go down one kind of business model, you just focus your resources to make sure that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
In some respects, it was probably harder to get all the breweries to have the same taste than it was to transport, beer long distances.
Okay.
But you also had to do, refrigeration because Coors wasn't pasteurized.
Right.
So it had to be kept cold and served cold.
Okay.
So it was another challenge for that.
How long were you at Coors?
I was there for 23 years.
Okay. What, in your 23 years at Coors, as you look back, every career, I feel like if you're at a place for a while, there's like peaks and valleys of your own personal interest, and there's some years that feel maybe a little stagnant. In those years where you felt like, wow, I'm learning and growing a lot, what were some of the highlights?
Well, I think one of the big, obviously, when I moved from laboratory technician into process control, because then it was a bigger remit, further reaching. So that was really cool. And then I opted to go from that role out to be a production supervisor in the brew house.
Okay.
And that was a whole different level of learning. I was the first female out on the brew floor as a supervisor. The crew that I took over didn't have a woman on it and never had a woman supervisor. And really, they didn't have anybody like me that had ever wanted to leave like the nice, cool, comfy, day job to go work rotating shifts in a stinky, hot, wet brew house.
Did that kind of help endear you to them? Because sometimes I have to imagine, somebody might get transferred from that nice, air-conditioned place, and all of a sudden they're out on the floor and they're not happy about it. The fact that you were pretty excited about it, did that help kind of maybe ease the transition?
I don't know. Just because it had never happened before, so there wasn't, and it was actually very awkward because all of the people in the laboratories needed degrees. None of the people on the shop floor needed degrees. So my pay rate was higher because of the knowledge base. And I had to, agree to getting no pay raises until everybody caught up with me on the shop floor.
Yeah.
So, and that's a piece a lot of people don't know that happens, particularly in large organizations where you have pay rates set.
Okay.
But it was really good for me. And I think after I'd been there a while, then I had people go, then it was good.
Yeah.
But I had to be there for a while.
Okay.
And certainly further on in my career, it certainly helped that I did that.
Sure. I think it's one of breweries of a certain size, the larger ones, I know there's like a lot of different ways to once you come in as a brewer or somebody, and how you get trained in on all the different parts to kind of see how, the full cycle of the process.
Yeah.
I know that Summit, they'll have you rotate. Like you do all three, like the hot side, the cold side, the cellar side, and you get trained in. And I have to imagine that that's very helpful to understand. Well, so I'm working on this part of the train, but this process goes like this, and then I need to get it ready to go like that.
Yeah. So for Coors, because it was so large, that you were pretty much, unless you chose to move and requested a move, you pretty much were in wherever you were, where you were.
Sure.
So, and that kind of carried forward. So after the brew house, I became what they called an international brewer. So I worked internationally brewing Coors in other countries.
Okay.
But my specialty was always malting and brewing.
Okay.
Then there was another guy whose specialty was fermenting and aging. And there was another guy that did the packaging side.
Okay.
So the three of us were kind of a team that went out and did those projects. Because there was just a lot of stuff you had to know.
Yeah.
But we shared information, and through that, all three of us got to know the other processes, really well.
When Coors decided to kind of expand onto the global scene, where were some of the locations where they were expanding to?
Well, they bought a Stroh's brewery in Memphis. That was one of the first ones. They built a packaging facility in Virginia.
Okay.
And then they bought a brewery in Spain. So I speak Spanish, so I was off to Spain for
Perfect.
a while. And then they brewed with Scottish Courage in England with a product called Extra Gold. So it was a little bit darker, a little bit heavier.
Oh, okay.
And so my job was to get that up and running at one of the breweries, actually in Manchester, England.
Okay. Well, at the time, were you kind of excited to travel? Did you? Okay.
I mean, it was a little bit scary because we had proprietary yeast. When I went, I had to carry the yeast.
Yikes.
And it's liquid.
Yeah.
And so we always had special paperwork to go with it because it couldn't go in the hold because it could freeze.
Right.
So it had to go with me as part of my carry-on. And the looks and the going through customs in a lot of places. And yeah, it was just a lot.
That's pretty crazy.
It was crazy. But yeah, it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. What were so going over to Spain, what was the beer culture in Spain? Because people that I know who've traveled to Spain, they're like, the beer is not good. It's a wine place.
It is more of a wine place. I mean, there are good brewers there.
Yeah.
It's by and large a lager country.
Okay.
So it's going to be lighter, a little bit more fizzy, much like America.
Okay.
So we're kind of a lager country as well, or used to be known as, that's what we drank was that fizzy light stuff. Particularly if you lived in England, that's what you thought about Americans and their beer. So there wasn't a lot of diversity in beer, but certainly the culture of, having a beer or having a glass of wine, going out for tapas and kind of just meandering through the evening is unmatched anywhere. And so I felt very safe going by myself.
Okay.
And I'd, go to the tapas bar and they served mostly half pints there. And so you'd have a beer and you'd order, those olives look really good. And I like some of this and some of that and a little bit of cheese. And then you'd sit down and they were kind of cafe style seating.
Okay.
And you'd drink and munch. And then you'd go to the next tapas.
Oh, see, that sounds perfect.
I know.
Was this in Madrid?
Full. No, it was in a town called Saragossa.
Okay.
It's kind of more northern.
Okay.
But you have that culture throughout Spain. They're never in a hurry to eat. They just like to take their time and enjoy their meal.
See, that sounds great. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm a teacher, so we get like 22 minutes by the time it's all said and done to eat. And if I go out with friends, I am just programmed to eat my food very fast. They're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, sorry. I just force of habit. Was there any, how was Coors kind of perceived? I know that, especially, nowadays, certain American things in other places there's definitely a context to it. But, with that idea that when Americans travel, the stereotype is we're, loud, we expect everybody to speak English and, so I have to wonder, some of their already in place beer culture, if this huge American company is coming in, was it a positive experience or a negative experience from that aspect?
It was really positive. Certainly in Spain, because what we were bringing wasn't super different to what they already knew.
Okay.
In Britain, they had lager beers,
right?
But the darker lager wasn't really something they had. Ours was kind of a golden lager.
Yep.
In the extra gold. So, that was unique enough. And I think in Britain, for sure, they were just intrigued by this, goofy American girl coming in to brew beer. She just, and even though it's English, they have different words, and I would get tripped up on words all the time.
Yeah.
And I'd get this blank look on my face, like, you're telling me something, but I have no idea what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And so that was always kind of funny. And I never knew if they were poking fun at me, at first. I had a gentleman I was climbing, as I am one to do. I like to inspect things before we do a brew. So I was climbing up to look in the mash tun, and their mash tun was elevated. So I had to get a ladder. And they're like, what do you want to go in there for? I want to look at it. I want to make sure it's clean, blah, 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 blah. And the guy holds a ladder and goes, do you need help, pedal? I'm like, I'm good. But then I was like, was that it? What was that? So I just really neutral, finished my job, came down. There was a woman who was part of their team. And I walked over to her and I said, should I be worried about this? That guy over there just called me pedal. And she starts laughing really loud. And she goes, you're just on the fringe of Yorkshire. You're in Manchester. And pedal, flower, what's the other one? B. Those are all positive comments to women.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, phew.
Yeah. Kind of like if you go into like a diner in the South, you get called hun or something like
love.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's funny.
Yeah, it's the same. But I wasn't sure what to make of it, so I just kind of let it ride.
That's funny. Yeah, I have, because whereas, when I think of prominently established historical beer cultures, I think, Germany, I think Belgium, I think England, Britain, UK. I read a book talking about how when lager was introduced into like the UK, it did kind of take hold right away. It was very popular, but it's so different from like the pub ales that are a lot maltier and a lot warmer.
Yeah. And less fizzy.
Yeah, much less fizzy. So what you had what was it called? Coors Golden?
Extra Gold.
Extra Gold. Okay. And I have to imagine that kind of took on, people really embraced that.
Yeah, people really enjoyed it, and it was kind of an easy launch to have,
sure.
Have it be out there, and I did spend some time cruising around pubs, to be the brewer that brought it in. So marketing got a hold of me and made me do steaks.
Sure. Yeah, I suppose. Did you enjoy that?
It was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a tough time. In fact, this conversation is a little bit tough because I have time talking about myself. And so that was, I kind of had to get a routine going.
Sure.
Because, in some ways it feels a little like bragging. But I'm not really bragging. These things happen to me.
Yeah. You're telling a story about your career. It just happens to be a really epic career, and I think a lot of us are fascinated by it. So, so how long were you traveling for Coors to kind of set up those things and kind of launch those brands?
I traveled about 7 years for them.
Okay.
One of the things I got to do was go to Korea. They built a joint venture brewery with Jinro, and they made a beer called I got to make a beer for them called Kas. It was really kind of interesting because they didn't want it. They drink all lager beers.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to taste like what was currently there. They wanted it to be different, and they kind of used some words that would help me make a beer that would have those qualities to it.
Okay.
But that was one of the places where all three of us as international brewers went because we were building the brewery basically ground up.
Okay.
So it's also, we would go for 3 months and then we'd come back.
Okay.
And they'd do some work and then we'd go back for 3 months. And,
Okay.
yeah.
When you were with Coors, of all the different locations you've been, what was your favorite and why?
Oh, that's really tough. Because I loved pieces of everything.
Sure.
I loved pieces of everything. I really liked Spain. I was able to take my son with me. He was 2.
Okay.
And we put him in a guarderia, a nursery, next to the brewery. So he learned to speak Spanish at 2 years old. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But he would not speak Spanish to me because he knew I spoke English.
Oh.
But to my friends that I had there, he would speak Spanish to them. As much as a 2-year-old speaks to anybody.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, so I liked that. I really liked being in Korea as well. South Korea, we were in the middle of kind of nowhere.
Okay.
And it was the most different place I've ever been until I worked for Guinness. But
yeah.
And just it was new stuff all the time. But the complete difference between Seoul, which is very cosmopolitan, very current, and where we were down near Daejeon, which is very country, women didn't really have standing there. So I eventually ended up as an honorary man so that people would listen to me.
Jesus.
And it was fine.
Yeah.
Because I needed to get work done.
Right.
But because they didn't have a frame of reference for me and the sort of the level position that I held,
yeah,
it was like, we just don't know what to do with you, so we'll just pretend they're not here.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Huh.
But
so
we fixed it. We made me an honorary man, and boom.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say they had characteristics for a beer that they wanted, what would that be? Is there a example of a style that is similar, or like how would you describe that?
I think what they were looking for, a lot of the Korean beers at the time had kind of this grassy note to them because the malt wasn't well modified.
Oh, sure.
They were getting malt from all over the place and didn't have a lot of brewers that knew about malting. And so it carried this kind of grassy note, like, a fresh, wet malt.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want that. They wanted something clean and crisp.
Yeah.
So I made basically our Pilsner here.
Huh. Perfect. Yeah, because I'll drink this all day long.
And that was a way to really differentiate the Cass from the other ones that were out there.
So how did you fix it? Did you have access to different brewing ingredients that they didn't have? Okay.
Well, I think because I had kind of the malting knowledge that I'd gotten earlier on, I was able to work with some of the maltsters in country as well as be able to blend some malts that would come from, they ordered a lot of malt from like Germany, Czechoslovakia, kind of Europe malt. And so being able to blend those together helped.
I mean, now we have, BSG RAR, you've got all these huge things where a brewer here can basically mimic the same recipe being brewed halfway across the world and have those same ingredients if they're willing to pay. What was it like as far as supply chain back then? What were some of the challenges or what did that look like?
Coors, they owned the entire supply chain.
Well, there you go.
So there wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
The farmers grew specifically for Coors, and Coors told them what kind of grain to grow.
Okay.
They had their own agri-labs, so they were making sure that that grain was what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then they contracted with, tons and tons and tons of farmers to be able to supply the malt. They had their own container division, so they made their own aluminum cans. In fact, Coors was one of the first, probably the first company to actually make an aluminum beer can.
Okay.
So, and they had their own porcelain company. So the huge vertical integration there. So there was never an issue. Working in some of the other countries, supply chains were always potentially a problem.
Sure.
Although while I was traveling, the level of unrest between countries was minimal.
Okay.
You did run into some countries, like with Guinness. When I was in Africa, there are some countries that prohibited the import of certain products because they wanted it to grow in state or in country.
Okay. So you were with Coors for a while. Talk me through the process of when you moved on from Coors to Guinness.
So my last 3 or 4 years, so while I was at Coors, I got my master brewer certificate, and I also went back to school and I got my MBA. And in order to really use some of the stuff that I learned with my MBA, I transferred into international marketing.
Okay.
So I sort of had the responsibility for marketing Coors in Scandinavia. It was great.
Yeah.
That's great. But I was also still doing quite a bit of, brewing assistant and things like that. And doing a number of papers internationally. So for like the European Brewing Congress and things like that. I got a call from a headhunter, and they said, would you ever be interested in working for Guinness Worldwide? We have a position open. They're searching. Thing about it is you're going to have to be better than any internal candidate in the whole of Britain before we can hire you. So I'm like, yeah, I think I'd be interested. And it was, move your entire family. So I had 2 kids and a husband, move them all over there. And and then I was their international director of quality worldwide. So everybody that brewed Guinness, I went and made sure that they brewed the beer properly, that it was served properly in trade for the brand of beer that it was. They don't make the same beer for every country they're in.
Okay.
So they have.
Is that just because logistically it's just too difficult, or?
No, it's because people like different things. So
okay. Interesting.
In Africa, the Foreign Extra Stout, which is a heavier, thicker, sweeter stout, is just hugely popular. You don't have a wedding without it. You don't have a funeral without it. You don't celebrate a birth without it. It is very iconic in Africa.
And the ABV of that one is higher, correct?
Higher. It's about a 6.4.
Okay. Yep.
7, something. Can't quite remember.
Okay.
So it's higher. And then they have another kind of foreign extra stout that is slightly different for the Far East. So Malaysia, Indonesia, that has a little bit different flavor to it. The Singapore as well.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have the draft, which is what a lot of people are used to.
Yep.
And so it was really interesting to kind of learn all the nuances of Guinness.
Well, yeah, I'm most familiar with the draught. At the Dubliner. I think the Dubliner in St. Paul is, and if they want to sponsor this podcast, I'm all for it. But I think the Dubliner in St. Paul pours the best pint of Guinness that I have had in Minnesota. But it's such a good beer, deceivingly low in ABV. I remember in college, somebody got me a Guinness once, and because I knew very little about beer, I'm like, oh, this is so heavy and bitter, and I just didn't like it. And now I'm like, oh yeah, this is like, I'll bring Guinness on a boat, because it's so easy drinking
Yeah.
and flavorful. When you started with Guinness, what were some of the things that were really exciting about that, and what were some of the challenges?
I think just going to live in a different country was just amazing.
Well, and like having to move your family as well.
There was a lot to that. Negotiating how to buy a house in a, not your home country.
Yeah.
Being recognized as a legal alien.
Yeah.
Because our passports were all stamped with Her Majesty's leave to stay in country. And then I had my work permit was in my passport. And so my family could join me because of the work.
Okay.
So their immigration is I think more rigid than what we see here.
Okay.
Because you can't get a job as a foreign person unless you're better than everybody in country.
That's insane. That's crazy. Like,
so it was really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the language, we're all speaking English, and some of the culture things were just hilarious. One of my employees came in one day. I was at my desk, and he was late, and I was kind of wondering what happened. And he comes in, and he's just in this flutter, and he's like, some plunker had a prang, and it took me yonks. And I went, you're trying to communicate something really important that has you really upset. I have no idea what you said. And some idiot had a crash, and it took me forever to get here.
Oh, okay. So this was in where in the UK were you at this time?
I was in London.
Okay, in London. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So, so I'm like, because they, it just took a long time.
You're like, this is pedal all over again. Here we go.
But now I'm in London, which doesn't use the pedal.
Okay,
all. That's strictly up north. So my first year there, I took the 4th of July off. And it was a Wednesday. And my entire staff was like, why are you taking Wednesday off? And I said, well, it's the 4th of July. And they looked at me like, so? I said, okay. Once upon a time, there was a war. You guys lost.
Still bitter about that.
And they're like, oh.
Yeah.
So there were some funny things like that.
Sure.
Challenge-wise, I think the whole of Britain at the time was very class-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Because this is what year now?
So now we're 96.
Okay, sure. Probably. Yep.
And so I had some expectations about how I should dress. And it was fine. But if you're expected to wear, a dress and heels or skirt and heels, blazer, that sort of thing, it's really tough to do your job if part of your job is climbing inside tanks and making sure they're clean. So I finally told my boss, I said, this is not going to work for me. Yeah. I will wear a pantsuit and I will wear flats, but I cannot do my job if you're going to, that's my dress code.
I'm kind of surprised to hear that given the fact that, it's beer, you're in, it's an industrial setting.
But I was a director.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't on the shop floor.
Yeah.
But in order to know what's going on in the quality side of things, you have to be on the floor.
Yeah.
You can't see it from the catwalk around all the people working. You have to be down there.
Right.
And so that culture of management was very different.
Okay.
Very different. It was a lot easier outside of Britain.
Okay.
Like when I was in Africa or Indonesia, and those, there weren't the same requirement, but everybody wore ties. You guys are going to get trapped in something. Oh
Yeah.
no, we just watched from, and I'm like, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. So I asked, earlier, what was your favorite location that you'd been when you were with Coors? Do you have a place that sticks out from your Guinness tenure where you're like, I really love this country, I love this city, I love the people?
Yeah. So Ivory Coast, Abidjan is the capital. They're mostly French speaking, and they're up until recently, they were just such laid back people. There are quite a lot of Vietnamese after the Vietnam War, because they all speak French.
Okay.
So there was some great Vietnamese restaurants in Abidjan. Architecture was really something. It was very kind of French colonial.
Okay.
But they also had, there was a church there that is an elephant head.
Okay.
And the sanctuary and the stained glass is his head part, his big head. But then the like lobby area and kind of the hallway to the lobby area is his trunk.
Okay.
It's just a really pretty church. And of course, I had to go and look at it.
Yeah.
So they had some very uniquely African things, but there's also some very sad history to
sure.
Ivory Coast with slaves and things like that, and the slave caves and stuff. But I would go back to Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite as safe as it was before. It's had a lot of troubles lately, particularly Abidjan, but I really enjoyed Africa because it was so different.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I got off, my first trip for Guinness was to Lagos, Nigeria, and I traveled by myself and got off the plane, and they have a beautiful customs hall. It's all in marble. It's beautiful. And you walk out of the custom hall, and it's goats and chickens and people. There's so many people.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking and people looking at me because I think I was the only white person in that area at the time. And
kind of a different,
they're like, what are you, they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm thinking to myself, I hope I find my driver. Because we weren't allowed to drive in Africa because the rules are different.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I was like, I hope I find him.
Yeah,
and I did. So I felt much better. But there were so many things about Africa that were so unique.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed.
I think it's so remarkable to just not only for you to be able to do something that you were really passionate about with science and get in and really thrive, but also I have to imagine that what an opportunity for your kids to be able to travel and see the world. That's something that not many people get to do. What were some of your kids' favorite things? I have to imagine that it all seemed like kind of one big adventure.
Yeah. I mean, so they were in the regular public schools. And so their friends were all British friends. And things. We lived in a neighborhood that was very mixed. So there were some people from Jamaica. The people across the street were from India. We had a couple Canadians down on the far end of the road. And all those kids were part of the school system.
Sure.
They all went to school together. But I think the most telling thing, and of course we traveled a lot.
Yeah.
You're in England.
Right.
It's
when it's so easy.
You're France. You're Spain. Germany. Portugal. Poland. We just kind of bebopped all the way around. But the telling thing was when we came back, my kids got into Pine Island schools, and my daughter said to me, I hate going to school because I don't know what to wear. Because in England, they all wore uniforms.
Oh, sure.
So every day she'd just get up and she'd put on her uniform, and it wasn't, well, what's Betsy going to wear? What's Sally wearing? What's this? What's the latest jeans? What's this? What's that? You just wore the same uniform as everybody else. And in the summertime, you had this uniform. In the wintertime, you had that uniform.
Yeah.
But my son was 4 years older, came back, and he's like, one day we're sitting there, and I think he was starting his homework or something, and he goes, Mom, where are all the other people?
Yeah.
And I said, well, he goes, there were other people in our neighborhood. Everybody looks alike. I'm like, yeah, that's true. We're in a very vanilla place, for want of a better word. So the impressions that they took away were actually kind of deeper than I thought they would be. And so they handle, I think, people of different cultures way better than some kids that have never been part of that.
Have they, I mean, I think once you get that travel bug and you have that experience, life just is one series of gaps until the next trip. Do your kids, are they still like wanting to travel and wanting to experience a lot of things?
Yeah. So one of the things that we did when we came back to kind of do service but do travel, is we traveled on mission trips to various places in Mexico and Dominican Republic, Haiti, that were helping build homes.
Okay.
Because I knew my kids would be comfortable in those situations.
Sure.
And it was a way for them to travel and see different stuff. They still seek that experience.
Yeah, I think it's really important as a teacher. I wish there was some way for like a month every year once kids are like in their junior year where they have to go someplace international and just for a month and immerse themselves in a different culture, because I think it gives such a great perspective. I think it makes you realize, the things that, living in the United States, yes, there are a ton of problems. There's some problems that we complain about that, if you take a step back and widen out that lens, they're not problems really.
Yeah.
So I think that's fascinating. And, we haven't even talked about the tap room where we're sitting.
Yeah.
But I noticed we've got some getting close to empty glasses. So I think this is a good opportunity to take a little break.
Okay.
I'm down here at South by SouthEast Brewing, and I'm having a great conversation with Fahy-Gust. So we're going to take a break, and we'll come back for the second half of this episode of A One Pint Stand. Cheers.
Well, it started as a one-night stand. I had 2 pints for lonely hand. Bounced back like a rubber band for 3 pints. Drank a fourth in the faraway land, but I couldn't make it as a single man. So I married me this beer right here. A pint, a one-pint stand.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you're enjoying A One Pint Stand. My aim is to help spread the word about craft beer. Enjoying craft beer is a passion of mine, and I love chatting about it with other people. A One Pint Stand has a goal of helping breweries tell their stories. I love to get out in and beyond Minnesota to visit breweries, beer bars, and meet other interesting beer people. If you're also into those things, you probably want to keep tabs on the show. Go ahead and follow A One Pint Stand on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. I also started a TikTok account because I was tired of Charles calling me a boomer for not having one. I would also appreciate any and all positive reviews on Spotify and Apple Music or wherever you listen to your podcasts to help make it easier for other craft beer listeners to find us. If you want to be a supporter of the podcast with some of the extra change you find in your couch cushions, I have a Patreon. There are 3 different monthly levels of support priced at $1, $3, or $5 a month. Now, if you pledge at the $3 or $5 level, you get some pretty cool perks. So go to patreon.com and search a 1 Pint Stand to check it out. We're up to 27 supporters, and I'm really excited for what that means for the show. Hey, speaking of Patreon, I'm running a special for the entire month of December. If you sign up for any level of support, you get 75% off the first monthly membership. This is the perfect chance to see what the Patreon is all about. Or better yet, you can gift the beer nerd on your shopping list and a 1 Pint Stand Patreon membership so that they can enjoy the fun content that the Patreon offers. If you like reading about craft beer, you can check out my written work on onepintstand.com. I love to write, and that's where you're going to find a lot of my written content covering both the local craft beer happenings as well as my craft beer travels. I truly appreciate you listening and taking time to enjoy our stories. Now, before we head back to the show, I want to talk about this episode's sponsor, Northbound Smokehouse and Brewpub. During the holiday season, Northbound has a gift card special. $100 gets you an extra $25, or get $50 and get an extra $10. This deal runs until the end of December. Keep an eye out on their socials for their annual Icebox release and beer poking event in January. Northbound will release its 2-time GABF gold medal winning Icebox, and brewer Andy will be outside at a fire to poke and talk beers. This event is something you won't want to miss. Tentatively, Saturday, January 10th. Also, their happy hour is top-notch with $2.50 beers on Tuesdays, half-price wings on Wednesdays, or late-night specials. Great for a quick pint with an old friend, a first date with somebody new, or a comfy family dinner with everyone you love. No matter what you're in the mood for, venture northbound.
How about a beer?
We're back from the second half of my interview with Ann Fahy-Gust. Kind of a, jack of all trades when it comes to beer. Has worked for Coors, Guinness, but currently is co-owner and master brewer of South by Southeast Brewing down here in Pine Island, Minnesota. So if you've been to Rochester, you've driven past it. It's a very easy to spot blue barn with a cool logo, and I love the sign that when you come off the highway is like, it was worth the U-turn.
Yeah.
And so in the first half, I drank a very crisp and refreshing Czech Pilsner. Now I'm on to an IPA. What is the name of this IPA again?
It's called Open Field.
Open
and
Field,
it's our
okay.
West Coast.
The West Coast IPA. And I've been craving these. Well, I never stopped craving them when I first got into craft beer, and then they seemingly went away in like 2016, and we're kind of like a unicorn style in a sea of hazy IPAs, which, don't get me wrong, a hazy IPA has its place in the beer world, but something about a really nice hoppy beer that you can see through it's just kind of a revelation. So, and I was telling you earlier, I was in Boise, Idaho for a week and got my fill of West Coast IPAs out there. That's definitely hop country. So this is good. So we spent a lot of time in the first half talking about your career working for Big Beer. And then, and here we are, South by Southeast Brewing, not a macro brewery. No. Very cozy. This feels like a cabin. We have a large, is that a reindeer?
It's an elk.
An elk, okay. An elk above the fireplace. There's a stein the size of Invergrove Heights here. Do you ever fill that?
No.
Is that for like the staff party? And
yeah.
who can polish that off gets an extra day off a week for the next year. That is where did you get that?
It actually comes from Germany.
Okay.
It is one of 10 that were made worldwide.
Oh.
And it is a 5-liter stein. And the bottom of it, it's the decoration on it is a German wedding.
Okay.
And around the bottom it says, "The man who can drink this is a real man."
Okay. Well, challenge to all you listeners, come on down to South by Southeast and see if you can do 5 liters of beer. It wouldn't be hard because the beers are delicious. Obviously, we talked about Coors and Guinness, you know, breweries that make millions and millions of barrels of beer.
Yes.
How do you go from that to where we're sitting now?
So just a little bit after Guinness, I worked for Scottish Courage. So that's where a lot of my ale brewing experience came from. But then Heineken purchased Scottish Courage, and the brewery that I was running was deemed to be more valuable as real estate than as a brewery.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, I'm out. So we came back to the U.S. and landed in Pine Island because my husband was from Pine Island originally.
Okay.
And I had a brief hiatus from brewing. My husband was very ill. I had to take care of him. He eventually passed. And after that, my kids were young, so I needed a job that I could just come and go from.
Sure.
So I did that for a while. They grew up, got into high school, didn't need as much, So I started a consulting business in brewing. And I discovered that I really hated that.
Okay.
You would get hired by a company to come in, whether it was help them with, creating a new beer or fixing some of the beer that they had or creating a new marketing strategy. Or maybe it was just a whole new business culture, those kind of things. And so you'd take them through whatever process, you'd work with them, you'd talk about, well, this needs to fix and that and that and that. And then you'd go back and check on that. And they didn't do what you said.
I was just shocking. Isn't that crazy when somebody hires an expert and pays them a bunch of money to give them some suggestions and then they just totally ignore that? That's
Yeah. So, but it is how I met my current business partner.
Okay.
My introduction to her was basically, if you don't listen to me, you're going to waste all your money and waste my time, and I don't want to take that job. It's just, why would I not listen to you? You've been doing this for a long time. So anyway, we worked together, and then we really decided she knew a lot of the sales and marketing side of things for the restaurant side. We thought, we can do this as a larger distribution brewery with a tap room. So we moved the equipment from the microbrewery or the brew pub into here.
Okay.
Got that all set up. And we bought this building in January of 2020. I put together a plan. We had a good business plan, really solid one. We were going to open Memorial Day 2020. And we were really going to focus on bars and restaurants. That's her expertise.
Yep.
And we all know what happened in March.
Yeah.
The world changed.
Funny.
And so we couldn't get all of our stuff together because the state shut down. I couldn't get any plumbing licenses. I couldn't there was just a lot of things that didn't happen. We got our plumbing finally sorted out, got all that put together. We started brewing in August of 2020 for can sales to go. And we rewrote our business plan, included cans, and really just launched our business on here's a can to go. And there were a lot of restaurants at the time that were doing to-go meals, and they got licenses to sell alcohol to go as well. So it worked well. And so we found ourselves in the can selling business.
Yeah.
We opened on September 11th, 2020. It's been very different. When you're in a large brewery, you're in charge of one thing.
Right.
I'm in charge of 10 things. And when, when one stone falls, you just wait for the next one because you know it's coming kind of thing. So I do everything from, cleaning toilets to making decisions on which beer we're going to brew when and what it's going to look like. So, yeah.
That has to be just such a different thing, all the different things that you grew up learning about beer. I have to imagine, first and foremost, quality. Beer has to be good. It has to be consistent, whether you're brewing millions of barrels a year or you're doing 200 barrels a year.
Yeah.
You want that beer to taste right. And I have to imagine that with all that know-how and understanding of how to put the processes in place, how helpful was all of your big beer experience when it came to thinking about, okay, what are we going to have on tap? And so I think a lot of people understood what craft beer was, but maybe had not had a taproom experience. And so how do you do, what's different from, why would I come here versus going to my local corner bar?
Yeah. One of the things that we did is we set about creating core beers. So beers that we have all the time.
Yeah.
That people can count on the fact that they will taste the same everywhere they go.
Yeah.
And really honing those in. And nobody's allowed to mess with it. We have a recipe, we have our brew sheets, and you follow that exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went about creating some other beers that we thought would fit well within that offering. And again, we used our tap room. People told us, oh, this is really good or whatever. I think the thing that differentiates us from other tap rooms is, you already mentioned, it looks like your living room kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very cozy.
Yeah, it's cozy.
But spacious too.
Yeah. And so we want people to feel like, they're super comfortable. They can come and talk to the beer tender. We make sure our beer tenders use words that are user-friendly for people that don't really know about beer. They don't want to know about the alpha acids and the beta acids and the hops and the, they don't care. They just want to know, is this beer going to be hoppy? Am I going to perceive it as hoppy?
Mm-hmm.
Or bitter, because sometimes they don't even differentiate bitter and hoppy. I don't like bitter beers.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are some of the beers that you've had that you don't like?
Yeah.
Then you can figure out, are you talking about malt bitterness, like, like a dark beer, Guinness, something that's a little bit, has a lot of that coffee roasted that can come across as bitter? Or are you talking about hops?
Yeah. There's so many different continuums of descriptors in craft beer. And you really do, you can start with one word and then, as deep as you want to really delve into it. Oh, yeah, it could be this, could be that. Yeah.
Yeah. So really train them to listen to what people are telling them about beer that they like or beer they don't like. And then getting them to try some of the beers that would match what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So in general, we try and have 2 to 3 beers when you have a new person come in and they're like, I've never been here before, don't really know what your beers are like. What kind of beer do you like? Well, I tend to like blah, da, 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 da. Okay, and what do you like about those beers? Well, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, let's get you try these 2. They come across this way. They have these flavor profiles, and help that person that's come in find a beer they really like.
Yeah.
So we do tastings. We do flights, because a lot of times people bowl in here and they're like, okay, I really love hoppy beers.
Yeah.
What are your 4 hoppiest beers? Put those on a flight. That's what I want. Okay, good. We can do that.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. You're always going to get the same beer. So like we might not have, for example, our golden coffee ale. That might go away for a month or 2 just because of the rotation that we have with all the other beers. But when it comes back, it's going to be the same golden coffee that you had 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
And people will expect that.
Yeah. That's definitely something that I think I wish were happening at more places. And I think it just is, experience, process, everything.
Yeah. And it's also desire.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had a brewer who worked here, and he was a good brewer. But he wanted to make different beer all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not what we do. Here's our business model. This is what we're trying to do. And you're a good brewer, but if you really want to do that, you're in the wrong brewery because that's not how we work.
And those breweries are out there. And I think that's like, there's so many different types. I mean, and there was in Greeley, Colorado, there was that brewery. I think they almost prided themselves on, they were doing beer releases all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like they almost didn't want to brew the same beer twice.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but I'm a creature of habit. I want to come in and I want to find this, I want to know that the West Coast IPA is going to be, kind of what I'm looking forward to, or that Czech Pils. I don't want that to change. That's perfect the way it is. Don't do anything to that. That I think that's good. I think that as beer kind of changes, there was a time when every place had their flagships, and then like people started moving away from flagships. I'm like, I don't know where that perfect spot is. I think we need some stability. Yep. Because oftentimes I'm going to a place, when I go to Arbeiter, I always want to have at least one Haha Pils because it's fantastic. And then, if they got new stuff, I'll try that. Haven't seen that before. I haven't had that in a while. But I think, there can be both, but that thread of consistency is very, very important.
Yeah. So for us, we have created what we call our Scenic series.
Okay.
And that allows us as brewers to play.
Mm-hmm.
And a customer, when it's labeled Scenic Series, they know it's a small batch.
Okay.
They know they're not going to get any cans of it. It's an in-tap experience only.
Yeah.
And we can judge whether or not it's a hit or a miss.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we decide we want to, we can create that as a larger batch.
Sure.
So that's the way we handle. We're going to change this all the time.
Yep.
We made our spicy blonde, and we brought that out as a 5-gallon batch, and it sold in 2 days. And we're like, that's cool. I wonder if it was just a one-off.
Yeah.
So we waited a month. We made another 5-gallon batch, brought it out, sold in 2 days. We're going to try, a 15-gallon batch and see how that does. And it was gone in a week. So then we made a 7-barrel batch, and we're just chunking right through it.
Yeah.
And so that was a brand new beer, brand new thing. But being able to make the first batch at 5 gallons tastes like the second batch at 5 gallons.
Yeah.
We had to do some science because you're using natural ingredients and they vary.
Yeah.
And then the 15-gallon batch, and then to get the 7-barrel batch.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, you just scale it up. You just do the math. No, you actually have to recreate the recipe because as you scale up, everything changes.
Well, yeah. Anybody that's ever cooked anything knows you can't just multiply by 3.
Yeah.
There's so many other factors. And it's like when you do that, and I've done that in my kitchen, I'm like, oh, just double the batch. That doesn't taste the same.
No.
Oh, you have to account for all those things. I think that's a lot of, for those of us who don't have that background in, okay, well, here's what could happen. So you need to account for that. It's just a lot of fun trial and error in my kitchen. But if you're running a brewery, you don't necessarily have that flexibility to be like, okay, I'm going to tinker with this for a long time.
Especially if you find something that looks to be a hit and you're testing to see whether it's a hit or not.
Yeah.
It has to taste the same.
Right. Yeah. What are some of the beers that folks coming in just absolutely have gravitated towards? What are the fan favorites?
I have to say one of the biggest fan favorite we have is our Golden Coffee Ale.
Yeah,
When it's off tap just for rotation, we have angry people.
of course.
We have people that are just like, "Hmm." And I'm like, we're going to brew it in 3 weeks. It'll be back on.
Yeah.
You know, just obviously our Oktoberfest, when that comes on, we just sell a ton of it.
Yeah,
And equally, we make Irish Red called Crack, CRAIC. And that one, we just, when it's out, people are like, we rotate our Frontage Road Stout. So we always have a stout on tap,
okay.
even in the summertime. The summertime stout is called Toasted Coconut. So we use toasted coconut in it.
Okay.
Just because coconut brings kind of more of a summery, tropical, lighter feel.
Yep.
In the fall, we make a peanut butter version.
Oh, okay.
And so that's a little bit heavier,
Yum.
more nutty. It just
love
brings
peanut butter
fall
stouts.
to mind.
Yeah.
And then in the deep of winter, we do a Belgian dark chocolate version. And it is so smooth, but because of the chocolate, it's a little bit higher alcohol.
Sure.
So it's the sit next to the fire and sip.
Oh, perfect.
And you just can picture yourself, in the summertime with the toasted coconut, you're sitting out, picnic bench, the sun's shining. In the fall, you've got the leaves crunching and you're drinking your peanut butter one.
Yeah.
And then wintertime, you're next to the fire, the snow's flying behind you.
Yeah.
They evoke emotion.
I think beer,
those ones.
that's an underrated kind of a bonus of beer. I think, drinking seasonally, I think is really fun. There's definitely some breweries I gravitate more towards in the summer, and then some breweries I gravitate towards in the winter, just because of the aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this would be like, if it was snowing, I'd camp out here with a book or with a friend, and
in that sofa.
Oh yeah, you're drinking that Belgian chocolate stout. That would be really good.
Yeah.
That would be really good. As far as previous to South by Southeast, had there ever been a brewery in Pine Island?
No.
Okay.
No, we're there first.
I always wonder about what that's like, because when you get out of the kind of like the more craft beer centric locations in the state, you've got a lot of people that maybe have never been to a craft brewery and don't know what to expect. It sounds like you have done a great job educating your staff with how to make beer not intimidating to people. I think craft beer in theory would be for everybody, but I think that we know that there's a lot of levels of, intimidation when it comes to different styles, like we were talking about earlier, that the word hoppy, that could mean so many different things to so many different people. But I think a novice associates the word hoppy with the word bitter. Mm-hmm. And, how do you break through that? Or the people that come in is like, what do you have that's similar to a Coors Light? Everybody gets that comment. Yep. And so being able to kind of like take that information and point them in the right direction, it sounds like that is definitely something that is ingrained in your staff. Mm-hmm. Is that translated to the folks? Do you get a lot of people like, I've never had craft beer before and now I love it? What are some of those fun success stories?
Yeah, we do have that.
Yeah.
I think probably some of the funniest ones when we were first open. So my business partner, Tessa, doing sales, would go out to the different bars and restaurants once we could. And she would, take samples with her. And in a lot of that bars and restaurants in the smaller towns, it would be, afternoon pool, or it would be this, that, or the other thing. Or the farmers were just in from fields and they were having a beer before going home. And she had a group of farmers who were like, yeah, we drink Miller Lite. That's it. Don't really. And she's like, it's free. I'm giving you a free sample of beer. Just give it a try. Well, I'm blah, blah, blah. And one guy took a sample of our hazy IPA called Lazy Day and drinks it, and he goes, well, damn, that's actually good.
That should be on the T-shirt.
Well, we actually did talk about for a while making a beer. It's actually good.
That's such a... So, is that just a Minnesota thing? Because I think a lot of people say that. They don't mean it to sound insulting. They mean it as a compliment.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why are we as Minnesotans? I mean, I know aside from like the Minnesota Twins and the Lynx, we don't really have much to cheer about when it comes to sports teams. So is that just where we're so programmed to expect bad things and we're like, oh, and we're surprised when something is great? I don't know. I'm always floored when a brewery has a no samples policy. There's some places that like they won't pour it and you know, their rationale is like, well, it's expensive, it's waste. You never know.
It's 2 ounces.
If you're like, if you can get somebody turned on to a new style, or better yet, your version of that style, isn't that a great opportunity?
Yeah.
Isn't that 2 ounces or whatever worth that?
And we have had people come in and try all 15 beers. And you know that there's some people that try it on. You know, it's fine. Yeah. But for the few people that do that, the vast majority are actually seeking something to have a good experience with.
Yeah.
And that's more important.
Yeah, I think that's part of the joy of the tap rooms. You know, before when you couldn't come in and sit down in a brewery, something really cool, I think, about knowing that the beer I'm drinking right now is brewed over there. Mm-hmm. You know, once people know about the history and all the knowledge that goes into it, it's like, yeah, this is good, consistent beer. What I love is I've had some of the best beer in not like densely populated cities. Mm-hmm. I think that was also a big thing. It's not so much a thing now, but when craft beer first, you know, after the taproom bill became a thing, I think a lot of people, you know, if there was the famous one I always do is Lupulin Brewing up in Big Lake. They make really good beer, and Michael Agnew, who writes for the Star Tribune, he wrote a little piece on them. He's like, not bad for a strip mall brewery, and they kind of didn't know what to do with that information. They're like, well, he liked it, but like, you know, so I think for one of their anniversary beers, they brewed a really good double IPA, and they called it not bad for a strip mall brewery. Yeah. And just kind of a funny thing. But a lot of people see a brewery in a strip mall and they're like, well, how good could this be? Well, but when you think about the economics of it all, mm-hmm. there's a reason there are not that many breweries in downtown Boston. Yeah. Because it's too expensive. Yeah. So it's like places are opening up and wherever they can be, you know, mm-hmm. is a strip mall, an abandoned warehouse in Northeast, and they turn into something really, really great. What was this before South by Southeast Brewing was here?
So this was built in 1964, and it was the Pine Cheese Mart. And it was a local kind of restaurant serving sandwiches and beer. And it was that until they kind of phased out the restaurant side and just went to doing cheeses. Okay. So it became Pine Cheese Mart. And it had, you know, a few kitschy things in it as well, you know. Okay. It was like the place to go for those, what are they called? Those little pets, the small, I can't even think of their name.
Beanie Babies?
Beanie Babies.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
Beanie Babies.
They had every kind of Beanie
Oh,
Baby
that's
here.
funny. Yeah, I bet.
This was that.
Okay.
And then it evolved, all under the same owner, evolved into a beer and winemaking kit and supply store.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right.
So then he wanted to retire, and he lives right down the road from me, basically. Okay. So when I found that out, I came out to talk to him, and, you know, we'd like to put a brewery in here and blah, 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 blah. And so we basically took it from kind of a German chalet, Swiss chalet looking place to a barn.
Yeah.
And then built our larger brewery behind it. Looks like a big pole shed. So
Yeah. Okay.
really represents Southeast Minnesota.
Yeah.
You got your barn, your pole shed.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now we have people come in and say, I haven't been in this building since I was little, and we'd come here after church for sandwiches.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it has this historical significance
Sure.
to this particular area.
I think that's special too.
Yeah.
I think that really, people like
love
that.
it. Yeah, they really do like it. And when you're talking to somebody and they don't really know where it is, you say Big Blue Barn on Highway 52 and da-da-da. And then you say, it used to be the Pine Cheese Mart. People are like, oh yeah, I know where that is.
Yep. So in your brew house, you said you've got a 7-barrel brew house and a 15-barrel brew house.
Correct.
Okay. I'm assuming the 15-barrel brew house is busy all the time with your flagships, and is the 7-barrel more of the kind of like small batch, the scenic series type things? Okay.
So it does those. We didn't actually have a large brewery planned in our business plan.
Yeah.
But we ran out of capacity right away.
Okay.
And so we had to move that forward and put another brewery in place. So it brews our Trailhead, our Easy A, Lazy Day, some of our big specialty beers like Oktoberfest and Crack.
Yep.
And then the other brewery brews some of the smaller, more boutique styles.
Okay.
And it's worked really well for us to do it that way. It gives us the advantage. We can brew up in, late fall, and then we can kind of shut that brewery down for the winter.
Okay.
Because we've got beer in tank. And then when it's time to brew Crack again, we'll brew it in February.
Yeah, because that has to be a St. Patty's Day thing. Okay, all right.
So then we fire that brewery back up, and then it'll run all summer long.
Okay. One of the wonders that I have is like, what have you learned to really appreciate about beer on a small scale versus, back when you were in the bigger, the huge, colossal scale?
I mean, it is more hands-on.
Yeah.
And that is more fun. I'm able to do everything.
Yeah. And how many barrels a year? Like, how many barrels in the last year have you done?
So this year we're on pace for about 1,100.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
We're growing at about maybe 2%. It's very, very small.
Yeah.
All breweries are struggling with growth right now.
But you're growing.
We're growing.
I think that's the big thing.
Growing.
That's the big thing. Yeah. I think that fast growth has bit a lot of places in the butt.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And those are the ones that are really trying to figure out, okay, what do we do now? Because we had to grow this much to keep up with pace. And now it seemingly has dropped off a cliff.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that? So I almost feel like if you're growing at small increments, that's a lot easier to work with.
Yeah.
It
is.
What are some from obviously the consistency of the beers and the different styles that you brew, that helps set you apart from the beer standpoint. If somebody has not been here before and they were going to come in, what should they expect on an average Saturday afternoon? What will they find?
It depends on if it's summer or winter. The summertime,
right. Yeah.
We have a playground out there for kids. A lot of the parents are up in the picnic table area under the trees, and they just shovel their kids off to go play on the playground.
Go on the slide.
We have a terrace seating now.
Yeah.
And then we have an event tent. So we might have an event going on a Saturday.
Okay.
Whether it's a bridal shower, it's a luncheon, it's a retirement party. We've done them all. Weddings. And then we have kind of a little kind of cafe seating on the other side.
Yeah, I saw that when I pulled up. That's really cute.
Yeah. And it's just it's more of a chill place. And then inside on the tables, people are going to be playing games. We have a lot of games.
I like that the barrels are kind of like the base for all your tables.
So those came from Pine Cheese Mart.
Okay.
So the barrels had round tabletops on them.
Okay.
And then they had barrel sort of chairs.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah. So I kept the barrels and then had tabletops made, long tabletops made.
Yeah. What are some of the, weekly, a lot of places do trivia, a lot of places have like different events that are more kind of localized to like a tradition in their community. What are some things that you do to try to get people to come in, especially in the winter? You've described, you've got a beautiful outdoor space. You've got this nice little cafe feel on one side. You've got the playground, you've got the picnic tables, the event area. When it gets cold.
So when it gets cold, we do bingo.
Okay.
We pack the house for bingo. We do it once a month.
Okay.
We do it on a Wednesday. So it's kind of in the middle of the week. People are looking for something to do.
I love that. I love something, a Wednesday. If I can get through Wednesday at work and I have a beer to look forward to after work, that just makes that transition into the weekend a lot easier.
So we do that. We partner with a local snowmobile club.
Okay.
So they maintain a trail to here for us.
Oh, perfect.
And then we have fire pits outside. So on the weekends, we'll have fires going and they can ride their sleds in, and then they don't have to sit in here and be super hot.
Sure.
And they can go out there, but still have the chill taken off of them. So that's the thing. And then we'll do music, usually on a Friday night.
Okay.
Usually just a guy and a guitar, nothing big. We are known as a place that does only original music. So I don't do covers.
Okay.
So people know when they come here, they're going to get just, really a good new music.
Yeah.
So, and then we go all the way from kind of ballad style to jazz to blues.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of different people come.
That's cool.
In the wintertime, we really track, it's National Beer Day, or it's Pet Your Dog Day, or it's something. So we'll really track those things, and we'll put a beer on that's on special. So instead of being $7 a beer, it's $5 a beer.
That's a good, especially now when everything is way more expensive.
Yeah.
I've noticed an uptick in breweries doing at least some type of thing like that.
Yeah.
One of the fears I have, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, is, the economics of what a pint is costing nowadays. And I think it's like, there's, for a while, when craft beer kind of first started, $5 was kind of the normal going. And then that kind of crept up to $6. And then the pandemic hit. And then I think there were additional costs that spiked because of the pandemic, but never really came down.
Yeah.
When it came to, raw materials, cans, and things like that. And so, I go into some places and I always expect to pay a little bit more for like a double IPA or a high ABV stout that's, maybe served in a 12-ounce thing. And now it's like, if I can find a beer for $7, that's almost starting to become a rarity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that I understand that, but my paycheck isn't keeping up with that level of inflation. So I wonder, where is that sustainable? And then I think about, packaged product. If places are putting out 4-packs that are starting to creep up, the $25 mark, starting to get up to the $30 mark.
Yep.
If it's a really specialty IPA with 8,000 pounds of hops that were, slept on by a unicorn, where are we going, and how is that gonna continue to fit the narrative of beer being for everyone?
Well, so all our beers are $7.
Yeah.
Our specialty beers, like our sour, we just serve it in a smaller glass. So instead of being a 16-ounce pour, it's a 12-ounce pour.
Yeah.
And we will do that for Imperial IPAs, stouts, and everything, because I think it is important for people to have a price point in their head when they come in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can move the glassware around to fit the price point that you need to make sure that you're making money on your beer.
Yep.
We're in crowler format. That's all we do. And we price our crowlers slightly above all of the liquor stores because we want them to be successful.
Right.
They do a bigger volume for us than we do. But we also have the advantage of people coming here, they can taste everything and then buy what they want.
Yeah.
So we can charge that little extra more, and it's literally 50 cents. But
Yeah.
I mean,
But that makes a difference.
it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so I think, the cost of goods has gone up, but not enough to warrant some of the prices that I see. And I know that the cost of labor is really killing a lot of businesses because, Minnesota is just creeping up that minimum wage. And my people, most of my people, they are part-time workers.
Yeah.
And they never intended it to make wages for a full-time job.
Right.
But, pretty soon we'll be at $15 an hour. And that's more like a full-time wage.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I think that's part of where it's also gone that makes it really difficult. And a lot of brewery owners don't think about they think about their cost of goods, but they don't think about the whole picture.
Sure.
And really, they focus on sales. Oh, I sold this much. But the cost to the business to make those sales is more important. So it's your profit margin that you really need to watch. And I think that's where people get into, I'm not changing my expenses side, so I have to increase my cost, my pricing out.
Yeah. I think for the consumer, I'd love to see, and I don't know if this is something that the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild could help with, or like the Brewers Association, but being more transparent to people to understand, in that $7 pint cost, what's the breakdown? Because for a while it was like, if beer sold out of your tap room, that's mostly profit. I don't necessarily think that that's the case anymore, but I think people still have that thinking in their head. So they're kind of wondering, well, why is the price going up? I thought this was all gravy, but it's like rent, labor, raw materials,
mortgage,
all of that stuff. Right. Yeah. So I think that's something that, like, as just a craft beer entity, I don't think that should necessarily be on the individual brewery, but like the Brewers Association should be more, I think, transparent and forthright with that education so that people at least understand better, why a pint costs what it does.
Yeah.
As you kind of sit here and look back on a multi-decades long career, what are you, when you think about all the things, what makes you happy about this? Because I think it's really, it is a labor of love. Nobody goes into beer to become rich. They do it because they enjoy producing something that really resonates with people. What's a couple things that you're really proud of?
Well, I mean, I really have always tell people I never worked a day in my life. The brewing industry is just a great place. Stuff I'm proud of. I don't go. I'm not one to really be proud.
And putting you on the spot here.
But I mean, I've been able to run, the largest brewery in Britain. Been able to work for a worldwide company. Been been able to have a company, kind of let me grow. Like Coors was really good about that. And now I really get to talk to people about what they like with beer. So, yeah.
I was just going to say that has to be, when you were working with the bigger brands was on a different level. There has to be something really gratifying about, like you said, you spend a lot of time in the tap room, seeing the reactions of people really enjoying the beer.
Yeah.
That has to feel just amazing.
I mean, it is really good.
Yeah.
And, it's fun when people come up and say, God, beer is so good. I had 2 flights and I couldn't find a single fault with any of the beer.
Yeah.
That's really good because, I know when I go out and that's what I do. I go get a flight and, how many beers do you have? How many flights do I need to get all of those kind of thing?
Yep.
And there's sometimes there's beers you just can't drink.
Yeah.
They're just not good.
Yep.
And I think about, I wonder if the brewer knows that there's any
Yeah.
good.
I think it's hard too because like everybody, I guess if I were like I'm a teacher, so if I was doing a lesson that wasn't resonating with my students, I'd want to know about it because I wouldn't do that same lesson again.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I've tried to give constructive criticism to brewers, and most of the time they're like, "Thanks for telling me. I wasn't aware. We'll check it out." But sometimes you get ultimate defenses go up and the hackles go up, and it's just like, well, even if you're being critical about a product, I think you're telling somebody because you care about it. You want them to like, hey, you should know about this and fix this.
Yep.
But I think that's also a Minnesotan thing. It's tough to to have a direct confrontational conversation with somebody. But this is really cool. And obviously we're recording this on a Monday, so you're technically closed to the public, but I'd love to come back down on a weekend. This would be a great place. I have another podcasting friend. Her name is Courtney, and she loves to go into new breweries, and I don't think she's been here yet, but she's also a big fan of the Flight. Mm-hmm. She loves the Flight boards and trying the different beers, and so I'll have to bring her down here. But this has just been such a great conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been fun. The beers are fantastic. So if you haven't been down to South by Southeast Brewing here in Pine Island, Minnesota, put that on your list. Yeah. Thank you for having me. This has been another episode of a One Pint Stand down here at South by Southeast Brewing. Cheers. I really enjoyed hearing about Ann Fahy-Gust's career in beer. Ann has a plethora of experience as a result of all her different brewery jobs. She's an amazing storyteller and delightful to chat with. I really appreciate her taking time to talk about her life experiences in beer. She puts all her know-how into the beers at South by Southeast, and it shows. Now, I want to give a special thank you to Brad Ashton, Marcus Dodson, Chuck Dorsey, Vicky Epper, Daniel Fisher, Todd Fitzloff, Laura Fleischfresser, Matt Holton, Cable Lefto, Dave Long, Ben Michaels, Brent Newman, Bree Smith, Jesse Storms, Sarah Cry, Cal Vandehoof, and Brian Wu for being Kegstander level supporters of the One Pint Stand Patreon. You've all shown incredible generosity, and I'm grateful for it. Cheers to you all. I want to thank the band Quirky for creating a nice little jingle for the podcast. I just love how it turned out, and it adds such a great little touch to the show. Thank you so much. Once again, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Northbound Smokehouse and Brew Pub. They've got something for everyone in your friend group. Good food, great beer, fancy cocktails, and fantastic staff. Tell them you heard about them on a One Pint Stand. With that, this has been another episode of a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast where the pants stay on, but the caps come off. Cheers.
And he comes in and he's just in this flutter. And he's like, some younger some plunker had a prang and it took me yonks. And I went, you're trying to communicate something really important that has you really upset. I have no idea what you said.